have 26 years of experience as a policeman.
That's correct, my lord.
Yes.
In the range of that, you served as an investigator.
That's correct, my lord.
Yes.
Tell me about the investigators of this case. You said it is a team.
That's correct, my lord. We are a team.
Okay.
Colonel Mapangana, that was here earlier, headed the team.
That's all right. That's all right.
So you say this case is investigated by a team,
Yes.
which was led by Colonel Makwangana.
Yes, my lord.
Yes.
At the stage that we began with the investigation, she was Captain Mapangana at the time, and then she was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel, and she had to leave our provincial area.
So you say she was later promoted and transferred to where?
To Kimberley to PCI.
Yes.
Even though she was the head of our unit, the trafficking in person unit, I was appointed as the investigating officer of the docket in itself.
Yes.
Who are the other members of this team?
Currently, there is also another member that was also transferred to Kimberley, that is Captain Charlie.
So Captain Charlie, was he one of your team?
Of the members of the team.
Transferred to where?
Also to Kimberley, to PCI.
Yes.
Current members remaining is myself, Warrant Officer Yowa,
Just one moment. Warrant officer?
Yolwa,
Yolwa.
yes, my lord.
Yes.
Sergeant Njara,
Njara.
sorry.
Sorry?
Njaha, my lord.
Njaha.
Njaha.
Yes, my lord.
Yes.
And Sergeant Adams.
Sergeant who?
Sergeant
Adams.
Adams.
Yes.
Just to round that off, the two members that have left to be promoted to another province, what does that mean? Are they still part of the team?
They're still
Even though
part.
they are there?
Even though they are there, they are still part of our initial team.
Yes.
Now, let's move on from that. You are aware that the applicant, Mr. Omotoso, is applying for bail on your case. First, is it correct that you were instrumental in the bail opposing initially?
That's correct, my lord. I was the officer that testified in the bail application, the first bail application.
Yes.
Is it correct that after you became aware that he is applying for bail now on your face, you also deposed an affidavit opposing that?
Yes, my lord.
Sorry, this is a third bail application, isn't it? There were two in the magistrate's court. This is the first one in the High Court. Am I correct?
Yes, my
So you testified in opposition with regard to the first bail application.
application.
How about the second one?
The second one was within the High Court. I was never called to testify.
No, the second one was not in the High Court.
No, I was never called to testify in the second one.
Okay. And you don't know who did?
No, my lord. No.
Yes. So you've deposed on affidavit in opposition of the current bail application?
Yes, my lord.
Yes.
I'm just going to take you through that that is a paragraph party. I will refer to some that I would like you to explain what you are trying to say. Do you understand?
I understand, my lord.
I'm going to refer us to the record, Mr. Ndelo.
I was trying to because the file that is fascinated. We by mistake left it in the hotel. I was trying to look for it. The one that is presented, but it is that the affidavit of Mr. Patis, if maybe I can tell the court, I apologize, my lord.
Yes.
Is the application with the our opposition papers, my lord, with the following notice that composed of answering the affidavit of Seven County and affidavit of Mr. Kana and the affidavit of Foreign Officer of Patis. Starts at page 17 to 20. Maybe one of them can help if they have the calculated number of this bail affidavit.
The paginated papers.
Yes, ma'am.
That's first your notice of intention to oppose,
Yes, ma'am.
which is on page 3
Page 3.
of the answering papers, and then the main answering affidavit by one Selvan Gounden starts on page 5
Page 5.
up to page 14, and then there's a confirmatory affidavit by Muhammad Sanden
Standard, yes, ma'am.
starting on page 15
15 to 16.
to 16, and then the affidavit of Peter Plakis starts on page 17.
Is the copies, my lord?
So is that the affidavit that you are going to refer to?
To page, yes, ma'am.
Just one moment.
The one that started, page.
But in the future, Mr. Ndalwa, make sure that you have your paginated papers. That's important.
When I was looking on my paper that this file is missing,
Yes.
I apologize.
Yeah, right. Yes.
I just wanted to have a look at this, whether it is the affidavit that you were supposed to. Just have a look.
It is correct, my lord.
Yes.
Demo.
Yes.
And then I'm going to take him to paragraph 6 of that.
Yes.
Mr. Patis, you in paragraph 6, you propose as follows. The following are my reasons for opposing bail. And you put one as that the applicant is a flight risk. That is the first reason you are mentioning there. Let's go to A. You say that the reason why you are saying he's a flight risk is that he has no fixed address as he is listing the places he stays in. Can you expand on this?
That's correct, my lord. Since the beginning of the investigation, my lord,
Yes.
since the beginning of the investigation, the accused before court, my lord, Mr. Omotoso, never gave us a fixed address. On the day of the arrest, my lord, I questioned him and asked him for his residential address on the day so that we can verify his home address. And as a person that if you are the resident of an address, Mr. Omotoso then told me that he don't know his actual home address. I must phone his wife to find out what is his home address.
Just a moment. He told you he does not know his fixed home address. You must ask his wife.
Address, my lord. And I must phone his wife, and then he gave me his wife's telephone number for her, to phone her to ask her what is the actual home address. I've also mentioned that. Sorry.
Yes.
I have also mentioned that in my statement marked as A11 in the original docket, my lord. A11. Unfortunately, my lord, the other typist didn't mark every paragraph, but I have made enough copies for the court as well, my lord, to refer to that portion of my statement.
You say that statement in the docket is marked A11.
A11, my lord.
Yes.
It's on the very last page, and I've marked it here.
Ms. Ndelwa, is that part of the...
It's
not part of the answering
no,
papers?
It is not.
Mm.
I
Yes.
have enough copies to supply the court and
So you want to hand it up?
Yes, my lord, yes.
Yes. Mr. Any objection, Mr. Price?
Without a doubt, my lord.
Sorry?
Yes, I've got an objection.
Yes?
To the previous consistent statement. Previous consistent statements aren't admissible. What's he trying to do? Prove that he told the truth by presenting a statement he made some time ago. That's not admissible.
Mr. Ndelwa, there's an objection.
In the court can remember, initially, it is a case that Mr. Price lied. When he mentioned things in the verification, when they received the copies, there was nothing of what he said in the verification that corresponds to what he said in court. It is part of their case.
Just repeat that.
Mr. Price told you, my lord, that Mr. Price lied during the verification. He mentioned things in the verification. When they received the document content, everything that he said was not contained in the document. Therefore,
But was this aspect one of the factors on which it was alleged that he had lied about?
yes,
Or was it specified what lies those were?
it was never specified exactly. And now, since it is one of the things that it was instrumental in the verification, it is part that he has no fixed address. So it was. I saw it fit that I showed the court that even the content that they received and alleges that there is nothing of that sort. It is there.
So in other words, your submission is that the applicant's submission, as you understood it, is that Mr. Blackies had lied in what he stated in the docket, and now you are now producing the document to show that in fact there are no lies. What he's saying is consistent with what is stated in the original affidavit.
Yes, my lord.
Maybe let me establish that fact from a surprise, because if that is the case, then the situation may be a little bit different. Mr. Price?
My Lord, I think my learned friend has misunderstood us.
Yes.
We have, our case is that Mr. Blakey's lied from the word go. There's no suggestion that there's a recent fabrication. If we had alleged recent fabrication, yeah, my Lord, then he'd be entitled to enter that document. But if you look at our papers all the way through, our argument in the very first bail application, we've said that he misled all the courts from the word go. And we say he's still misleading the courts. For example, let me just give you the one example where he says now he's a flight risk. He said that from the word go. We're not suddenly saying now that what he's saying is false. We're saying it was false from the word go.
So in other words, you are not stating, your contention is not that the lies consist in Mr. Blakey's saying things previously, which he is now no longer saying, hence the lie.
No.
You are saying from the very word go,
From the word go.
everything he stated is false.
Everything that he has used to oppose bail is false.
So you are not contending for any inconsistency with regard to what is stated earlier and what he has stated in the affidavit, in the application
Not up to
issue.
this point, my Lord. We haven't heard him, but not up to this point. Up to this point, we're saying that what he said in the very first bail application to now is false.
Right. Mr. Ndelwa, that is now the applicant has now clarified what their contention is. In other words, they are not contending for any inconsistencies between what is said previously and what he is saying in this affidavit. They say from the very word go, everything is stated as false.
I would understand if, if I like that part. He's not mentioning what he submitted to him about that after they received the college. It was something different from what he just thought about. If maybe he can clarify that part, because that is the part that bothers me.
Yes.
That he said something, and when they received the content of the document, it was something different.
Maybe then, fortunately, we have a running record.
Yes, ma'am.
I do have it in my chambers. So we can take a short adjournment. You gentlemen don't have the record, do you?
We do, my Lord.
You do.
We do, yes, we do, ma'am.
I don't understand what my little friend is saying, my Lord. Could you help me out?
Well, he says, your contention was that the lies in Mr. Blakey's evidence applies to the fact that in the docket he said some things which are very different from what he's saying in this particular application.
No, that's never been our case, my Lord.
Well,
What we did say, my Lord, you will recall, we said that at the time of the very first bail application, there were certain pieces of the state case that Mr. Hutton, who was representing him, and Mr. Grima could not challenge. For example, his comment that the state had a strong case. That couldn't be challenged because we didn't have the docket. So we couldn't look at the statements and say, but hang on, you don't. That's all we're saying.
well, because this will be important in my